The Planning Commission meeting of Port Orange, City of Port Orange for February 28th to order, please. Go, please rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you very much. The clerk will call the roll.
John Junko.
Here.
Maria Mills-Bennett.
Here.
Bo Bothamy.
I'm here.
Lance Green.
Here.
Newton White.
Here.
Joe Fazzi. Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Here. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4 here for consideration of minutes. I have one issue to bring up on the minutes of the description of case 18-2000007. That was on the discussion of the conservation acreage. It was my understanding that the applicant agreed to move the acreage, and it doesn't necessarily say that in the minutes. Does anybody remember that?
Yes.
Is that the way you recall it? The applicant agreed to
Well,
do
they
that?
basically said by the time they were done that there would be more than 6.3 acres exchanged over the progress of the project, I guess is what they were getting at. But
Yeah.
for the most part, they said that the way I understood it was that more than this 6.3 acres would be back to us in due time of the 3 phases. I don't know that it stated that it was going to be given like directly.
No, I didn't expect it
somewhere.
to be. I didn't think it was at a specific time or anything. I just want to make sure in the minutes. It looked like the environmental consultant suggested that ICI would do that, but the notes, I thought the notes should say that ICI did agree to that more than 6.3 acres would be allocated. Is
They certainly indicated that they would be providing additional conservation area in another location. How did they put it? They knew that they would be back before us for other things in the future. So I guess they left themselves open for
critique?
critique. Good word.
Do you need an emotion to add that in?
No.
All right. Can I entertain a motion to amend the minutes of last month's meeting to include the fact that ICI agreed to provide more than 6.3 acres at some future date?
So moved.
Second. Go ahead.
Got a motion and a second. If you call the roll on that.
John Junko.
Yes.
Maria Mills-Bennett.
Yes.
Bo Bothamy.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White.
Yes.
Joe Fazzi. Oh, sorry. Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes, thank you very much. So that amends the minutes.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
A motion and a second. Motion and on the on the minutes as amended. If you call the roll on that.
John Junko.
Yes.
Maria Mills-Bennett.
Yes.
Bo Bothamy.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's start with case number 19-900000001, a variance for 4832 Halifax Drive to reduce the minimum lot width to 20 feet in lieu of the required plus or minus 82 feet for property zoned neighborhood preservation, and 2, to allow for a dockside setback to be 5 feet in lieu of the required 10 feet from a side property line.
Chairman, if I may, with regard to the variance process, I just want to remind the Planning Commission that City Council has established by ordinance the criteria to be used when considering a variance. That criteria is as follows. Special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. The special conditions and circumstances are not the result of actions of the applicant. Literal interpretation and enforcement of the Development Code regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the Development Code and would work unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. The variance, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Granting of the variance request will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the Development Code to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. And the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this code and will not be injurious to the surrounding properties or detrimental to the public welfare. Just a friendly reminder.
All right. Hi.
Brianna Conlon King, planner. The applicant is requesting two variances. The first is to reduce the lot width in order to subdivide the property into two lots. The second, the dock setback variance is created because the proposed lot configuration. If the lot width variance is not approved, the dock setback variance is not required. However, after speaking with the applicant today, this may not be needed if the commission would condition the approval of the first variance on the applicant demolishing the first dock, the dock. The applicant can speak more to this. Staff reviewed all of the variance criteria for both variances and determined that a hardship does not exist, as there are other options to subdivide the property that comply with the LDC and do not require a variance. Attached to the staff report as Exhibit 2 is an opposition letter from Mrs. Ford that she would like to be read into the record. Also, after the staff report and packets were distributed, an additional objection letter was received from another resident, which was given to you prior to this meeting. The staff report went further into the detail about the variance criteria. Staff is available to answer any questions. The applicant is also here to address her request. Based on all of the review of the variance criteria for both variances, staff is recommending denial.
Cool. Lance.
Nothing yet.
Questions? Newton.
Nothing yet. I'd like to hear from the applicant first.
Bo?
No, I'm in accord with that. I'd like to hear from the applicant. I have questions there.
Maria.
Agreed.
John?
Make it unanimous.
Very good. The only statement I wanted to make was indeed that we had two letters of opposition. One's in the record, the one from Marilyn Ford, who lives there on Halifax, and because it was in the packet, I think in the interest of time, it's already included in the public record, so I don't think we need to read the whole thing. The second one came in late, and so does that get included in the official minutes? Yes, okay, very good. All right, so just so we know we had those. At this time, if we could have the applicant come forward here and talk to us about what you got going on.
Okay.
State your name and
My name
address.
is Christina Wyatt Vaith. I live at 4832 Halifax Drive. I am proposing to subdivide my property into two waterfront pieces of property like it originally was platted to be. I would not propose to keep a dock and squeeze another one next door. I'm sorry that there was a misunderstanding about that. This is the view. This is why there was a misunderstanding. This is a view from my dock. You can see Marilyn's house right next door. It's literally on the fence. So I had no idea that this was even in their thought process. As far as, I also have two letters that are not in opposition. They are supporting my position. I don't know if you would like those. I didn't see the last letter that came, so, but I could read these into record, or I can present them to you.
If you choose to.
This is from Ron Royer. He says, as the owner of property at 4910 Halifax Drive, I wish to advise the committee that I have no objection to the variance request of property owners of 4832 Halifax Drive. I have, to whom it may concern, I, Jody Abrosky, support the request to grant the variance requested on the property at 4832 Halifax Drive. I am a neighbor and do not believe this will have any negative impact on the neighborhood. Please feel free to contact me. Thank you, and her information. This is an extremely large piece of property. The next largest piece of property is probably half this size, which is why I would like to subdivide it. But the only way that I can is to create a flag lot because there is a house here. The city has proposed that I could subdivide it by just having this piece here. But then I lose my waterfront status. If I went back to the original, I'd have to demolish the house, and that is an undue hardship as far as cost goes. This piece of property is still extremely large, many square feet bigger than the adjacent and adjoining properties. I understand that Marilyn wrote a letter opposing it, but she was also under the impression that I was going to squeeze a dock. If you read her letter, most of her concerns were over the dock. As far as the neighborhood property, there is another flag lot. This is my property. It's literally right next door to Maryland's. There is also 2 more properties, also on Halifax, with flag lots. So it does fit in with the characteristic of the neighborhood. I'm not asking for any special privilege. It was 2 waterfront lots. I'm just proposing to put it back to 2 waterfront lots. This is the minimum for the hardship because otherwise I'd have to tear down the house. The minimum is that I put my little lot line there. I cannot imagine a house with this as an actual driveway.
We can't see where you're marking.
Oh, sorry. Good point. I cannot imagine this being an actual driveway onto the road. This would be the entrance into the property. This is just so people can go down onto their dock and enjoy their coffee in the morning and watch the sunrise, watch the dolphins out on the river. That's what most people use their docks for. I just want to let the future owner of this piece of property enjoy the water, enjoy the beautiful sky rises over here. I don't know, do you have any questions for me?
You all set? I have 2 quick questions though.
Okay.
One, the request that we got states that the second item was to allow for a dockside setback. That was in the request that we got.
Can she explain?
I can explain that because I think it's
Sure.
a little bit confusing. So, the lot, what's called Lot 2,
Mhm.
based on this proposed configuration, would be over 65 feet wide. In the Land Development Code, when you have a property that's 65 feet wide of shoreline, your dock has to be set back 10 feet. Side, off on the side. So, the second variance is created by the first variance. If you grant the first variance and create this new lot line, you then render this dock non-conforming, requiring the second variance.
Which is why I was requesting that you condition your approval on
Which
demolishing
was,
that.
we just heard that today for the first time, so we didn't have that information, I'm
Dock,
sorry about that.
the existing dock would be on the proposed lot 2, right?
Yes, that's where
It currently is. There is a dock there. I am proposing that if you allow me to subdivide it, there will not be. A new dock, if it would be built in the future, would conform with the rules and be somewhere else.
But there's an existing dock.
There is an existing dock.
That would be within the 5 feet? Would be what, less than 10 off the side?
Less
It's
than
about 4.95 feet.
Okay, but that's,
Based
so,
on the survey that we.
so we're creating an issue which would require the
Penny,
variance.
quick question for you. Is this lot 156 or 158, the parcel?
Across.
Because it says 156 in the first paragraph of frontage, and then we got 158. Just curious.
Would sound like me.
Curious.
No, asking
Sixes
a
and eights.
question.
It's 156.42.
Okay.
The other quick question I had for you, when you came up, you stated you lived at a Port Orange address, but your letter
Oh,
in the
I'm sorry.
document
Yes,
was
I
Tavernier,
own
Florida.
the property at
Okay.
4832
All right,
Halifax.
cool.
I'm very
So
sorry.
you are not a Port Orange resident?
I do not currently live here, no.
Lance, questions for the applicant?
And again, this is a little perplexing to me, and I went down there and I looked at the parcel and I looked at, I looked at all of it, and the first thing I thought about was, is this driveway gonna be beside this house in this flagpole part of the thing? And I'm like, because if that's the case, you're tearing down about 20 beautiful oak trees.
Right.
And so I have a hard time, because ownership of it, you sell it, somebody can do what they want with it.
But it has to conform, I mean, you have to get approval.
Not necessarily put in a driveway.
No.
Not necessarily put in a driveway, you gotta do, if you're gonna do a structure, you do the driveway too? Okay. But yeah, this is just,
I mean, I would
this
never-
is odd, and I know you've purchased something that was probably built long back in the day. And unfortunately, these lots are facing the other way, which would make them conform, and I understand tearing the house down is probably not feasible. But this is just, this is a situation where allowing that little piece, I think you're trying to create riverfront status by having a 10-foot piece, and I don't know that that's,
Well, like I said, I mean, there are 3 other pieces of property that all have those. I mean, it has been contemplated in the past. And that is why I'm asking you, because it is not feasible for me to tear down that house.
yeah, it's a nice house.
And it
it's
is a
nice
huge piece of property. I mean, the new lot owner of lot 1, which, I mean, I don't even know when I plan on selling it. This is just, I'm just asking permission to split it. But the new owner of lot 1, they would have plenty of space to build a house, but, I mean, I would imagine it facing White Place, but with the master bedroom facing the water, but,
Okay.
I mean, that's something that is later for the city to approve.
Okay, I have nothing more, Tom.
All right, Newton.
I've got several things. The first is, according to the property record, it was 2 lots, and they were 2 roughly 80-foot wide lots. And the person that bought them and built the house in about 1970 did what was common in 1970 and built the house in the middle of the 2 lots. They intended to build their large house in the middle so that they wouldn't be close to neighbors. And that's something that when the property was acquired last in 2004, which I assume was you,
Yes.
bought the property, should have known that. So it wasn't anything that was hidden when you acquired the property. I don't know whether you intended to live there when you bought it or whether you bought it as an investment or what, but that was the situation. And then that same scenario plays out all over the community, where small lots were sold kind of like select your size lot, and people could buy 1 lot, build a house on it, or buy 2, build a bigger house, buy 3, and have a huge yard. So that was the situation then. That being said, another thing that I look at here, with your flag-shaped lot and squeezing, you would have to apparently demolish the existing dock to move it further away. But that's going to create another dock, which do you have the permitting for an additional dock?
I have not applied for a permit for the additional dock.
So understand that's going to be another hurdle that you'll have to overcome, is getting a permit for the dock. I understand the permitting for a new dock is pretty extensive and involves inland navigation, fish and wildlife, all kinds of government agencies. And then I'm looking at the overlay here on the satellite, and I'm looking, and I drove by, as Lance did, I drove by several times, in fact, I've driven by here. Where would the driveway for the existing house, because the garage is on the back of that house, where would the driveway be? In this picture, the driveway that's existing is inside the boundary of what would then be lot 1.
Yes, I don't know about this picture. That's not the way I proposed it. On the survey of the proposal, it's not, the driveway does not encompass.
Well, then that's going to make lot 1 much smaller to allow for the existing driveway to be in there and meet a setback.
But those measurements are in your packet, and they are still very large measurements. And this flagpole here actually offers Maryland an extra buffer of 20 feet. that she wouldn't have if I demolished the house and put my lot lines back the way they were, because somebody could come in and build a house nearly 7 feet next to her property. So having that 20-foot driveway, and I say that with air quotes because I cannot imagine it actually being a driveway, it would offer her an extra buffer from her neighboring property.
I would ask, have you considered, and I know I can name two properties right now that come to mind, where there are five in the property in Ponce Inlet and 10 houses in Daytona Beach that share riparian rights.
I would love to do that. That's what I originally approached Tim Berman with, was that I just wanted them to be able to have access to I wanted this property owner to have access to a dock. And I was told that the only way to do that was to propose a through lot. That's what I was informed. I'm open to many other suggestions. My goal is just to make that property owner available to see the water and enjoy a dock.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Berman would like to address that.
Really? He's coming up voluntarily. Maybe he can help you out
Regarding
here.
the option of having 2 docks on one parcel, in this case basically one home there, that would also require a variance, because what would happen though is that you could have parcels all along Halifax Drive that do not have any water frontage, making deals with people, getting more docks along that roadway there on that one.
So it would still
it
be
would still require a
limited.
variance, we'd still be here we are
They-
today.
Could they do it if they shared the same riparian rights and the same one single dock?
They were sort of single dock, that'd be between the private property owners.
Right, but that could be deeded riparian rights.
That would be, I mean, you're talking basically just allowing, if that dock remained there and I lived on proposed lot 1, that I would have the access to use that dock, that would be more of a private agreement, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be a private, it could be,
But to have 2 separate docks on one parcel, then that would require a variance.
Wouldn't that dock have to be torn down if we gave them if they were gonna build a second dock? Wouldn't the initial dock, the original dock, have to be moved north?
If there was 2
It's
docks
gotta
on-
split the middle of the lot, right?
We'd have to look at that, I mean, we did not look at 2 docks on one parcel. We'd have to evaluate that to see what is in play on that one, that
Well,
hasn't been evaluated.
no,
Yeah, we
I
can only-
wouldn't
we can only
suggest,
look at what
I
we've done.
wasn't suggesting 2 docks on one parcel. I was suggesting that lot 1 share the riparian rights with lot 2, and they share the dock. The instance that I'm thinking of, and I could look up the address in Daytona Beach, where there's 10 properties, and they have a shared easement amongst the 10 properties, and they share one dock at the end of that easement.
Well, like Tim said, if that's a private agreement, depending on who buys which house when over the years, that could come and go. I mean,
Right.
and that's
And
we
it's
can't-
it's
we
it's a
can't
deed.
file an easement.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
apply
The
for an easement.
the easement's in the easement's in the deed. I mean,
Right.
it wouldn't be. I don't even think it would require any city involvement.
No, but I think
No.
it's beyond the scope of what we're dealing with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
is. I'm
appreciate that.
suggesting to the applicant that would be another way
I'm
to
totally
achieve.
open to that. I in the Keys, I grew up in the Keys, and we had a piece of property on the ocean, and houses on the street had rights to come onto our property and use our dock. That's
There's one like
very
that
common
over
to me.
in Wilbur,
As a matter of fact,
HOA.
I thought I even mentioned it in an email that
But
could
I
I make
wanna
an
say they have an
easement,
HOA.
and
Yeah, there's one in Ponce that I'm thinking of.
Newton, you have more questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the bulk of my concerns right there, and my suggestion to you, because
That's it?
I'm done.
The idea, I guess, about putting the frontage on the flag, having the flag configuration, would be, it would add value to the property.
it would.
And if you didn't do that, there would be nothing to prohibit you from putting a driveway off White Street, coming into the property and building a home behind there, correct?
Correct.
So, is that your objective, is to raise the value of the property? For
Yes, and
resale?
create an access to a dock, which if I can do through an easement would be fine with me. My goal was to allow the property owner at proposed lot 1 to enjoy the water.
Yeah, I looked at it and I
That's-
understand you know what you're saying, but still, if he had the front of the property was on White Street and you didn't have that flag, I mean, they're still looking out at the river.
They're looking, but they won't have the dock to go out and have their coffee and fish and yeah, I mean, they don't have the same enjoyment.
Well, you buy lot 2.
But if they buy the house, they're gonna know that. They're gonna
Right.
know they're not gonna have that.
And, well, I guess that's the only question I have right now. Oh, wasn't that house on the market for a while?
Yes.
Recently?
I've tried to sell it numerous times off and on. The problem is that the property is so big and it's just not
I think
valued.
most people would love
Right.
that.
Yeah, no, no. As a matter of fact, I have people call me all the time. Well, you know, it's too much land, you know, and so,
Well, they could subdivide it and sell it, you know.
yeah.
Maria?
I was gonna ask about the driveway too, because I was confused based off the drawing. I think everybody asked my other questions. The current house you're using as a rental property? Is it
Oh,
rental?
no, my
'Cause
uncle
you
lives
said
there.
you don't.
It's mine.
Oh, your uncle
my
lives
uncle
there.
lives
Okay.
there, yeah.
Gotcha. I don't have any other questions. Everybody asked what I was gonna ask, so I'm good.
John?
Has there been a proposed tree survey on the property for proposed lot 1?
No.
No, so we don't know what we
We
got
can
or
do that.
protected trees or anything in that nature. From looking at the lot 2, proposed lot 2, on the west side of the property line where the house jogs out to the west, how far is the edge of that house from the proposed property line?
I believe that's on that survey. I don't have it in front of me.
I just wanted to know what their setbacks were and how close they were to it if that went.
Because that porch juts out 12 feet.
So so the building goes out 12 feet from the property line on the
Put
proposed.
the survey on here instead of this, because
It's
this
on-
is
Yeah,
not.
no, I'm trying to scroll that up.
This,
Page 13.
this
Yeah,
is
it's
not
in the
accurate.
package, John.
Yeah, no, I just
They were
wanted to blow
sufficient.
it up. Let me see here.
They were sufficient. They weren't looking for a variance on that.
Yeah, I'm still, that's why I hate my laptop.
This is kind of only your first step too. If you get through this, you're gonna have a lot more hurdles.
I
You
know.
realize that.
That's why I felt that this was just asking permission, and then I still have to go through a minor subdivision, and I
Yeah.
understand it's a big process, and I might have to demolish my dock.
Okay, thank you.
If there's an alternative, I
Yeah.
would rather do that. I just, like I said, I would like for that proposed lot 1, whether it be a straight line down, have access to the ocean, or well,
You
the
also-
river.
The river.
Done a lot of work on
John, anything else?
Yeah, and I guess if that proposed goes through, you gotta relocate both driveways, correct?
No.
I mean, proposed 1 and 2 onto White Place? Is that how you would have your intention to propose lot? You have a driveway that's going onto lot 1.
It shouldn't be on the survey. It is just in this colored thing that.
It's on, it shows
On
where
the
it's
survey, it
the-
doesn't.
That's just a general
The
graph.
driveway's
That's
on
just
the.
No,
a- That's why I
I'm,
said this is not really that
The survey
accurate.
is- if you see the survey, it's not.
I'm going by your aerial where it says
This is
proposed
not-
lot 1 and I see a driveway.
This is not
from-
my.
But that's just,
White
This is the
that's
city's.
just a general
But they're
picture.
saying on the
Okay,
survey the
okay.
driveway doesn't hit lot 1.
Okay. But you would have to revamp for, and again, this is basically an investment option for you to at least put another house up there and stuff.
I haven't sold the house yet, and my uncle is quite happy there. He says he wants to stay there until he passes. So, and this is not. I don't have plans. I just want to subdivide it so I have vacant land and my house.
No, I have no more questions. It
Thank you.
is one of those things that the previous owner had his intentions on how to develop this house. And he went ahead and did it that way, and it was constructed in that manner. And then down the road, a future homeowner has chose to change and alter their perception of what they would like. And it happens a lot and that's why we're here, so I understand. I have no more question, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I understand your issue here. I appreciate the challenge of selling a waterfront property, but at the same time, we have a whole bunch of weird things down in that whole area because of non-conforming issues that were inherited when they came into the city. So I think your 3 sample flag properties were there long before they were Port Orange property. And we're in the process. We would like to eliminate as many non-conforming properties as possible when it can be done. So adding this is just a real challenge. And especially on the dockside setbacks, that's something that I
Right.
just don't. It's going to create a problem down the road. Somebody on that, if we ever did this, somebody that owns lot 1 is going to show up here to whoever happens to be on this dais then and say, I just want to put a dock in on this 20-foot section. And that's going to be rough. So, anything else for the applicant from up here? Do you have anything else for us? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Just those letters.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this particular issue? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the
Make a motion to
commission.
approve case number 19-900000001.
You have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. If you'll please call the roll.
John Junko,
No.
Maria Mills Burnett,
No.
Will Bofamy,
No, I'm sorry.
Lance Green,
No.
Noon White,
No.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
No, ma'am, sorry. All right.
Hold on, so she get to appeal that, or we have a thing about appealing?
Well, it's still got
Or
to
is it
council,
go-
right?
Yeah, it
council?
still goes on to
Okay, all right.
council,
Well,
right?
she wishes to appeal, she has 5 days to submit that in writing.
Yeah.
5 business days.
5 business days,
To submit in writing.
so not Saturday. or Sunday. Okay?
And I wanna make sure she has I don't think, I
She
think
does.
that she did
Oh,
not
I-
have a copy of.
Do you want a copy of the other
This was
second
the one
letter that was
that
submitted?
came at the last minute that's not in the packet.
All righty? All right. Moving on, case number 19-40000001. First Amendment to the Catfish Commons Plan, Commercial Development Master Development Agreement, and the Conceptual Development Plan. This is a request by the applicant to amend the Catfish Commons Plan, Commercial Development, the PCD, the Commercial Development Master Development Agreement, MDA, and the Conceptual Development Plan, CDP, filled with TLAs, as I can see, to allow a mobile retail unit to be positioned at 4085 Ridgewood Avenue. Item 2, to allow a residential unit above the entry feature at 4108 Halifax Drive to serve as a residence for any business owner or manager of a business within the PCD. And 3, to waive fees associated with future amendments to the MDA or CDP for the PCD property. Hi,
Gwen Perney, planner.
good to see you.
Thanks for presenting my staff report for me.
I just didn't say whether you recommend approval or
Right.
denial.
Okay. This request is for it's the First Amendment to the Catfish Commons PCD. The Catfish Commons PCD was originally approved in 2012 to set up the framework that would allow for development at the 4108 Halifax and 4085 Ridgewood Avenue. It's located within the Port Orange Town Center redevelopment area and along Ridgewood Avenue. The first part of the proposed request is for the mobile retail unit. If approved, the First Amendment would establish, okay, the map's up there, where the green dot is, the location on the conceptual development plan to locate a mobile retail unit there. Mobile retail unit is basically a modified truck or trailer that has merchandise that the business owner could either do the sales there at the property or take it to an event where they would do sales. The list of permitted uses for that property currently includes retail sales and services. However, this is a little bit different because it is in a vehicle basically. So the applicant is requesting to add the mobile retail unit into the list of permitted uses for 4085 Ridgewood. The second part of the request is for the second dwelling unit, and that would be located above the entrance feature that's currently over the driveway between Halifax Drive and the parking lot where the blue circle is there on the map. the MDA states that residential unit would be for a business owner or manager of a business located on the PCD property. And this is similar to the current permitted use at the existing house at 4108 Halifax that established that a business owner manager could live in there and have their business in that house. The third part of the request is for the development application fee waiver. The applicant is requesting this fee waiver within this MDA amendment that would apply only to future PCD, MDA, and concept plan amendments, which would be either a request like this where they're adding a use or adding adjacent property into the PCD boundary. According to the applicant, this request is intended to be an incentive to continue to invest in properties in the PCD and around it, to determine basically if it's even possible. This waiver is a policy issue that's required to be reviewed and approved by the City Council. Finding consistency with comprehensive plan, the subject property is designated as commercial on the future land use map. The original PCD zoning and MDA were found to be consistent with the comp plan when it was approved in 2012, and the approved amendment doesn't change the future land use designation and is consistent with the general intent of the future land use designation and redevelopment goals in the comprehensive plan. Staff is recommending approval of the first amendment to the Catfish Commons MDA and concept plan with City Council's direction on the policy issue of the development application waiver. I'm here for questions on the property owners.
Questions?
What
John?
is the amount or the calculated fee waiver amount that they're asking to have waived?
With the fee right now for an application for a PCD amendment is $6,500.
Okay, that's quite significant. Okay.
And it's required every time, you know, like we have Countryside that has 14 amendments.
Right.
So, but this one is specifically for the Catfish Commons PCD and would only apply to that initial application fee and, you know, resubmittals.
And why did you scare me with this example picture of a mobile retail unit?
I thought it was the one in the
cute.
staff report.
Yeah.
I found a couple others.
Was this provided by the applicant or by staff?
That's a scary picture.
Those
I'm
kind
just
of things
telling
are
you.
all over the
Yeah,
place
if
in
you
Fort Lauderdale.
If you Google fashion truck or mobile retail, you get, it's basically modified box trucks.
Okay, well.
Sometimes
Okay,
little
looks like a
VW
homeless
vans.
shelter. That's why I was a little worried about that.
So yeah, actually the one on the right in this slide is that same trailer, just
Okay.
like under.
Yeah, I guess the black
that
and
looks a
white
whole
picture
lot
added a
better.
little
Okay.
grayscale.
Yeah,
to
it didn't really come out in the staff report,
cute.
but again, those are examples with technically what it could be.
Okay.
They call those roach coaches in Miami.
Yeah.
Those are only for food.
Okay. All right. Well, I have enough. I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
I'd like to hear from the applicant. I have a couple questions for him.
Bo?
On this overhead or overview, where is Meeker? Can you?
Oh, Meeker is actually
To the south.
That's south.
down south, clear south of even this picture.
Okay.
It's probably one
So
other property down here.
the automotive place is in between Meeker and this site.
Yes.
Which automotive?
It's,
Well, where all the
Yes.
all
yeah,
the
that
trailers
guy's down
yeah.
on the corner.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. That's all I remember.
You good? Newton?
How narrow is the definition of this mobile retail unit?
It just states mobile retail unit.
Okay, so then what could a mobile retail unit be? Could it eventually be food trucks? They want to, if this is successful, they would be asking for more.
I think a food truck has to go under a whole different ballgame.
That's why I'm asking what a mobile retail unit is.
Roach coach.
Well, can I explain? Gosh, you're so lucky there's a girl up here. So, they have these all over the place in Fort Lauderdale. You go in there, they're like little boutique shops that sell clothes, perfumes, soaps, merchandise kind of stuff. And you know, you have people who turn like old Airstreams into little stores that sell that kind of stuff. That's all it is.
Well,
I'm assuming that's
they
what
could
they want to do with it.
technically sell.
Cannabis.
They
I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm
no,
kidding.
well, I'm
like you could-
CBD oil. I mean, that's what I'm asking. What could possibly? That's what
Well,
I'm
when they
asking.
come
is
up, we
what
can
could
ask them what
possibly
their
be in there.
intentions are.
Yeah,
Well,
and-
it's not.
And then as far as how
no,
many
that's-
they're proposing, just
Let me
the
let me
one
clear.
location.
Let me
Go ahead.
clarify it with you. What's allowed to be sold in this particular zoning district?
It's retail sales and services.
So it could be anything that's allowed in the zoning district, right?
So, what all is? For the record, what all is that?
Does that include
You want
food?
the whole list?
Clothes, shoes.
I don't think it has to do with food though. Food's a whole different.
Well,
Then
they
you're
could-
you're with the board of
Well,
health.
Well, yeah, I get
Right.
that, but
So you know, dresses.
I'm not opposed.
Wood
I'm not
crafts.
opposed to a food truck. I just want to know what's
What
going
you're
to,
allowing?
what's going to be
Anything,
what I'm being asked to allow.
Anything non-edible?
Well, they could do packaged food, like a little bakery truck. Like one
Oh,
of these
okay.
was like,
Cupcakes and stuff.
yeah, I think that's what this one is like maybe some prepackaged cheese and stuff. So, I mean, it's basically intended for general merchandise.
I guess the question comes. Mobile retail unit is essentially just a generic term. It's not there's no official legal
It's
definition
unique,
of it.
It's unique to the code, which is why it's being proposed in this PCD amendment.
So does the code currently prevent a portable mobile retail sales operation?
Something like this would have to be at a special event, basically.
No, I think he's saying he's going to have it here, could have it here 24 hours a day. Wouldn't be open.
But normally it would
But-
need to be at a special event.
Well, the intent for this mobile retail is to be parked on site. That's why on the
Mhm.
conceptual development plan, it's
Right.
intended to be parked there permanently unless they take it somewhere else to an event or whatever.
Yeah, but we're just saying so they can park something
Mhm.
on that space to sell anything that fits in the zoning district.
In the zoning district and
I mean, in the zoning, that's allowed in
Yeah.
the zoning.
Redevelopment.
That's a pretty extensive list. That's what I'm getting at. It's a pretty extensive list of things we could be there. We could be selling handbags, or we could be selling biker gear, or we could be selling
Have a portable
toys.
tattoo parlor.
Yeah, that's not
No.
retail.
No,
No,
okay.
can't
I'm
have-
just
no.
trying to see. This is the question I'm trying to lead to. Is this
What
is
are we
vague?
allowing?
This doesn't
It's
come across our
retail
desk that
sales.
much.
Like you go and you buy something and you take it with you.
Okay.
Fix them, Penelope.
Okay.
Hanny,
So-
you're back.
The code defines retail. Anything that you would buy at a store, a retail store, a shop, falls under the definition of retail. Tattoos establishments have their own definition.
Okay.
Restaurants have their own definition. The code does not allow mobile like food trucks and things all over the city, but that's why we have a PUD and PCD process to ask for things unique that the code doesn't cover. So that's why the only way they can do this is through this PCD process.
What code is on a 7-Eleven? Is that retail? Is a 7-Eleven retail?
Gas station, convenience store, different definition.
Okay.
So the other part of this MDA request includes a parking standard for this. Right now, the way their parking is divided with the restaurant, the shared parking with Aunt Catfish, there really is only a space for one of these. If they wanted to expand and go beyond just this one, they would have to do another MDA amendment.
Right.
Where would it be?
Newton, will you?
Do we know that?
Hmm?
Where would they locate this on that property?
Right there.
It's marked.
Right where the blue.
Right where it's
During
shown
the
on the
screen.
concept plan. They had to show it on their concept plan.
On the left, right next to the
Yeah,
restaurant.
right here.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And there
You,
another
you all
picture?
set, Newton, for now?
That was, you just said parking, and that is my other, how many parking spaces are they gonna lose to this truck? Because
One,
I know that they meet the, seats per square footage for the restaurant facility and all that, I understand that. But I also, in practical experience, know that at peak times, they were parking at the church across the street at one time. I had to walk across the street to the church to get a parking space. So
I can let the applicant speak to their parking situation, but per code, we have done the calculations. There is a parking allocation document that's in the file that shows based on the seating for this restaurant, they have this many parking spaces allocated. They have X number of spaces allocated for shared parking without Catfish, and they have spaces allocated for the proposed new unit as well as the one mobile unit per the standards in the MDA that are proposed.
Cool. Lance?
I'm gonna wait till I hear from the applicant.
Okay, very cool. Thank you very much. This time, I'd like to have the applicant come up here and answer all these questions we've got.
Apologize
Real quick.
in advance. Brendan.
Brendan Galbraith, 4190 Halifax. John, you're not our target market for this
Yeah.
retail boutique truck, so we're cool with that. The intent, I guess we'll take it off in chunks because I guess there's 3 different topics of
that's a good
conversation
idea.
here. So we'll stick with the retail. The idea is, very similar to what you talked about in Fort Lauderdale. We've been to the Silos in Waco, which they're mostly food, and we're not talking food at all. My concept here is we already have the 2 food anchors. We got Ant Catfish and we got the other building, at the current time, the La Cantina. So we're not going to compete with ourselves. So that's not, even on the table at this point.
You can sell Pepsi,
They can come by to Ant Catfish. But it's purely retail. Initially, it will be a clothing boutique. There's a current online boutique that's running that will take this spot, and then. From the aesthetic standpoint, it's a little eclectic. It's not Dunlawton Avenue development. We're not proposing that. We don't want that. It's not what we need down there. Doesn't support it down there. We can all talk about the issues on Ridgewood Avenue, south of Dunlawton. I think at some point you got to go a different direction, and this is our shot at a different direction. You can like it or not, but at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing. I'm not here to put something negative on my own personal property that I have debt on, that I have payments on, that I got to support for years and years and years. It's not my goal to run it down. That's just certainly not what most people's goals are with their personal property. The parking concept, just being honest, it's designed to be fed off of the current activity. Do we have to allocate spaces? Absolutely, to be legal, no doubt about it. Because you got to have an employee, and then in theory you got to have 1 or 2 customers. But it's not designed to be a draw. It's designed to feed off of the kind of the mixed-use concept. I've always felt that Catfish Commons was a mini version of Riverwalk. When you talk about zoning, when you talk about living above shops and all that whole concept, which is that next conversation with the unit above the drive-through, it's you can call it the poor man's Riverwalk. You can call it you can call it whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, if you take the same elements and you put it in a much smaller and what I believe is achievable for my capabilities, and that's kind of what my thoughts are on it.
Cool.
That's the mobile retail concept.
Yeah, any specific questions you want to ask about that right now, Lance?
So, and again, I call this a start, is what I call it. I understand the challenge down there. And again, rode by there again today and just checked it out. Do you have what is the concept with this apartment over the entry feature? So obviously the thing that's there is coming down. You're building something?
Yeah, I think the 35 feet will be the max, so hoping to get 2 floors on top, be 1 unit.
See, I wish I could see what that was. All I'm looking at is that little drive-through thing that's there now.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to vision this unit on top of this. So we're still going to have a drive-through.
Yeah, we're not affecting the bottom. Same footprint, just going 2 floors above the current footprint of the drive-through.
And how high is that going to be off of how high is the drive under?
Well, it's currently 12. That won't change. The header won't change.
Okay.
I think it's 12, or I'm not sure.
But I mean, you're taking down what's there and building something different, correct?
No, we're going to keep the structure. We're going to, we'll put, the engineers and the architects will figure it out.
Okay.
But we've already kind of talked about this, 4 or 5 years ago with Brian Fredley, and he had an engineer involved. Said, yeah, we'll put columns in the corner of the existing structure, and that'll become the support for the top.
Okay.
Of course, you probably got dig footers and the whole concept, but
gotcha.
That's an architect and engineer problem. I just take the
just a vision.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I got for him right now.
Brandon, I like what you're doing. I love the concept, the boutique style truck. I've seen them in other areas as well, and I think it's great. I absolutely think if you can make that work to put a residence, a live and work residence there, very nice, very nice. My concern, and you've done wonderful there. Ant Catfish's is a much nicer place than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. What's the La Hacienda?
La Quintia.
La Quintia. You know, even when the Panhead's Pizza was in there, it was a nice place, and I know you didn't manage that, but you leased to them. It's been a great property. It's come a long way since I think it was first built as a barbecue restaurant.
I think so.
And I have great praise for you. My concern is you will not be there forever. There will be somebody at some point that will take over, the next generation perhaps, and they may do something different. We had the same thing when we were at the last meeting. You know, what happens when the developer is out of the picture and the HOA takes over and it deteriorates. That's my concern, is what is in there that we allow today we're going to have to live with in 15 years or 20 years. And that's my concern with it, and that's my only resistance to it, is that I would like to see it a little bit more narrowly refined at the moment, so that we don't wind up biting ourselves down the road and finding out that we allowed what? I don't want that.
You're referring to the retail unit.
Yes, the retail unit.
Well, it's mobile, so it can be moved.
Yeah, but something else could move. That's the thing. So you move it, and then something else that we don't want could possibly be there. At least that's the way that I'm viewing this agreement at this moment. So that's my only resistance to it.
Oh,
that's all I have. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you very much.
I kind of like Lance's comment about it's a start. And as you think about our area, Ormond, South, New Smyrna, I don't think I've seen anything like that in this area. I think the concept is pretty solid. I like the idea. It's unique. It'll bring more. It'll make the area more robust in terms of traffic and people and the attraction. I like it. I don't have any problems with it at all.
Thank you.
Okay, Brendan.
Go for it.
So, a couple questions. First of all, I love the idea of the mobile unit. My only concern with it was what kind of standards, and maybe this is a question for you guys, does it have to fit under, like I'm worried about storms, hurricanes. What happens with it? Do you move it inside? Does it need tie downs like a portable does?
Yeah, we talked about it during our meeting, and we envision taking it away. It's not designed to be a permanent structure. It's not designed to handle windows.
Drive it away. Put it in a garage.
So you would just drive it away,
We'll
put it
take
in a
it
warehouse?
west. We'll find someone's garage that can handle it. We'll do something with it, but it's not designed to be on the property during, those types of things that have days of or a day or two of warning.
Okay, perfect. I'm assuming you guys are going to make the outside of it beautiful. I have total faith in what you do. Do you plan on moving with it? Do you plan on going to festivals or markets or anything? Or you're just going to have it here?
I think it'll be mostly there for sure.
Okay.
95% of the time. Like I said, currently there's an online boutique store, which is kind of the seed project for the mobile retail concept. Next phase, is to go get the mobile retail going.
Gotcha.
And then at that point, she can decide, okay, do we need to push a little bit more for sales, or are sales being generated, at a good pace? I mean, at that point, it's just a business decision. So I can't necessarily guarantee anything, but the idea is to have it here majority of the time.
You're thinking about adding an additional unit, right, or units?
In the future?
Yeah.
And that's certainly a possibility when you start looking at like the silos in Waco, which again is all food, but they have the truck concept. If you look at the yard in San Francisco, and again that's all food, but we're kind of taking that food yard concept and going towards the retail side of it, because I don't want to compete with food. I got food. I control two buildings which have significant food, so I don't want to be my own competitor.
Well, and I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I was just going to clarify. It doesn't have to be you have one unit in particular in mind here, but that unit could leave, and then for a week or two another unit comes in, right? It's not just a specific unit.
I don't think we envision that.
I don't think they could put another unit without a whole nother.
I don't think we envision that.
No. In the same.
You're talking about changing the user?
Yeah.
I've not ever considered that.
Can't do that?
No, so we would issue a business tax for one.
It wouldn't be like an itinerant vendor.
It wouldn't
like a
be
bike
like
week vendor,
rotating.
It wouldn't be that.
They would
then,
get a business
then
tax
you'd
for
have to
one.
pay a fee, then that waived fee would not apply to the new unit.
They're all not asking to waive building permit fees,
Uh-huh.
business
No,
tax.
just
They're not asking to waive business tax
right,
fees.
just that $6,500.
Just the ones for application fees for zoning.
Mhm.
So just to clarify a few items that have been discussed, and obviously if the applicant would like to agree, we could add into the MDA the definition of, from the Land Development Code, some clarity to what retail is defined in the Land Development Code. Retail is already allowed in the PCD, so, you know, from staff's interpretation, we understand what retail means because it's defined in the code, but if you'd like to add it into the MDA, retail sales and services defined in the code is an establishment engaged in the selling of products and services to the public for personal and household consumption, including but not limited to beauty barbershop, laundry, dry cleaning store, newsstand, bookstore, xerographic printing, clothing store, home electronic equipment, food grocery stores, retail pharmacy, sporting goods. This term should not include page management. So if you'd like to limit it based on anything in there, such as clothing stores, bookstores, what have you, if you wanted to pick some things out of this broad definition of retail and refine what retail for the mobile unit can be, then that's an option to add that before it goes to council, like limit what part of retail is allowed. And then we can also add, if you want, to an exhibit, some of the pictures that you saw and say the appearance will generally be consistent with this type of a unit, if that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I got no problem if, I mean, going back to Newton's point with your concern, I mean, I guess I can take two sides of that argument. You've already approved it within your zoning, so I'm not sure what the, I think the uncomfortable part comes because of the mobile side of it, and I get that because it's totally different. But if you're currently comfortable that I can put whatever uses in that retail on this property, I'm not sure where that concern comes from. I guess it truly does come from the being a new concept with the mobile, and I kind of get that. But on the flip side, if you want to kind of squeeze this down a little bit, and we can kind of, you know, just today come up with a few, you know, classifications that kind of certainly initially work for what we want to do right away, but then maybe just a couple others to give us options down the road. That'd be cool. Yeah.
What uses would you like to limit it to? Clothing?
Yeah, and I don't have that list off the top of my head. I kind of heard some, but
I don't.
I mean, I don't have a problem narrowing it a little
see a
bit
need to
to
limit
make.
it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we're not gonna do pharmacy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I heard a couple of them that it's out the window. Yeah. So
so my next question was, you want to build, because you said something about a business in the house. What are you doing in the house?
well, that's already on the books. Currently, it's just being lived in. So,
Right.
but it's a commercial piece from the original PCD that we did,
Oh,
which
okay.
I think it has restrictions where we can put a business, and of course you gotta deal with parking at that point too.
Sure.
I think there's a live concept in there, which the owner can live upstairs and the business can be downstairs.
Right.
But we're not even prepared to consider that going there right now for that structure. That's not on the
Okay.
table right this second. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's kind of set up for that mixed use, that work live concept.
But it's a drive-through, but it's
No, she's on the house next to the drive-through.
I'm just talking to the house. I was
Okay.
curious. What
Yeah,
you were
because the
saying
drive-through and the
about.
house are the same parcel, but
Right.
that's a commercial piece, and they have that. The house has that use. But again, we'd have to come for the business tax. We'd have to get with
Right.
building and all that stuff, make sure ADA compliant and all that stuff. That's a whole other conversation for an older home.
Right. You know, I think you've done great things in Port Orange. I have complete and total trust in you to do what's right and make it look good and make it successful and do great things. I don't see anybody coming in trying to take it over anytime soon. Brendan's been building a legacy and dragging all of his kids in with him. So, so I have total faith that everything will go well.
Thank you.
And I
John.
love the
Oh,
concept.
sorry.
Appreciate that.
John.
You done?
No. Not if you're
She
going to
is
talk.
now.
Who's
John.
next? No.
You know, it's an experimental stage, and we like, as a city, we do experiment. Port Orange Family Days, we served beer for the first time in a limited area, very cautiously, and over the course of time, it was embraced by the city council and the mayor, and it grew into something very popular and without any incident. This is another example of how I like the idea that they have these cute little boutique retail stores. It's encouraging people to walk outside, near the water, near our parks. So this is experimental. If it works, it grows. If it doesn't work, then they revamp and reassess what went wrong and see what they could do. your history with the city is, again, has been repeated by everyone here, is very positive. So I think you're going to do this cautiously. I think you're going to do it right. And I think it's probably the beginning of something that may have great potential to grow.
I appreciate
So,
it.
yeah. So,
You all set then?
yeah.
Thank you. Brendan, I think you're the only one down in that area that's really doing anything of this quality, this class. Trying to actually.
Andy does pretty well.
Pardon?
Andy Clark does pretty well.
Oh, I wasn't going that far south,
I'm
actually.
kidding.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think I agree. And you take calculated risks, and you know, with as little risk as you have to take on.
Yeah.
When I read this, I was like, I don't know what the heck he's planning here. When I mentioned it to my wife, she's like, oh, cool. So she gets it.
Yeah.
The only other thing I have is on that third item on the development application fee waiver, and that is, you know, that's a policy issue to be decided by the council. So you know,
Understood.
we can approve this, but we're just kicking that can down the road to.
And we can discuss it tonight, or we can kick it down to the next meeting. Doesn't matter to me.
No. I mean, council's the only one who can say yay or nay on whether
Yeah,
they're going to.
but if you had questions, Scott, you spoke up about the amount of.
You know, the money, the revenue, that's for elected officials, not for us.
Fair
So
enough.
I can just give you my opinion. They can overrule what we say too. So they're in
Understood.
control.
Anybody else have anything else for Brennan? You good? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate
Anybody
it.
from
Thank
the
you.
public would like to speak on this issue?
I'd like to ask Gwen a couple more questions if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Gwen. Could you pop back up here again for us?
You got a few minutes off on that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, I want to go back to the fee thing that we're talking about waiving. We're talking about if he was to come in and make a change to the MDA, which might broaden the scope of the property or broaden the usages, I guess, is what we're really getting at. But now, right now, the MDA has him basically in all ranges of business that can go on that property, if I'm reading it right, because
Right, so if he came back and wanted to do a second amendment to the MDA, which maybe he buys a property next door and wants to incorporate it in, that property's gonna have to be rezoned PCD to match the Catfish Commons PCD. So
that would be an amendment, and that
Yeah.
would require that fee.
yeah,
Okay. And what other things that would come up that would require this application fee? Because I mean, his zoning now is very broad as it is. I mean, with what he can do on that property.
well, if they decide maybe they don't wanna do something, like maybe there's an amendment where they wanna take this proposal away, for instance, or maybe they don't want a restaurant use to be on the property anymore for 4085, then that would still be an amendment, so they would need to come in and go through this process again
Okay.
to do another amendment to either add or delete uses or add or delete
Okay.
proposed structure locations.
So if we limit this retail truck scope to what we're saying is a couple of things or whatever, if something else wanted to go in that little retail truck, that again requires an amendment. No? Is that what we're saying? And the reason I'm asking is I'm talking, and I'm just going what Newton's going on, or say, we're gonna say this, and this, or is it a range of retail space? Because again, if he doesn't have what he wants in it and changes something, next thing you know, it's not part of the uses, or you gotta go an amendment?
This amendment would just be for that mobile retail truck. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's, what the amendment is for is to allow that truck to be on the site.
Okay, so regardless of what's coming out of it, right? I mean, we're just talking about the truck on the space.
Mhm.
I gotcha. Okay. I'm good.
You good? Anything else? Thanks.
All right.
All right, so nobody from the public? This
Mr.
time
Chair?
I entertain a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve 19-40000001.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve.
Discussion?
Case, any discussion, Lance?
Yeah, and so again, I think, and this is just, as we get to this decision, is we need to take a look at what it's gonna take to revitalize this area. And again, we know that this area is struggling, and I know that since I've been sitting on this panel that try to create ways to create business and down in this area, I think is critical. I think him taking this first step, regardless of what it is, there's not a business down there in the whole Riverwalk project as of yet, other than a couple free parks. So him putting his foot out there to try and get people into the area, I think is a huge step in this comeback of this area. And because if you look in your activity reports, we've got car lots going and we got car lots going and storage lots, but we don't have anything sufficing this district other than, you know, what he's done with Ant Catfish. So I want us to all just think about, you know, this is a beginning, or it could be a beginning of something that's gonna get people to that area, to revitalize that area. Okay, thank you.
Very cool. Anything else?
I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
Offer to amend to include the retail language to the MDA and limit the current use to clothing.
Clothing's very restricted.
Very restricted.
I wouldn't.
And typically in a
yeah.
clothing boutique, you have
Hold on,
other
do we have a
accessories,
do we have a
jewelry.
second on this motion? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay,
You wanna try something else?
to add the retail language to the MDA so that it's clearly defined what the retail is within the MDA.
So the definition of retail.
Retail sales and service. We can say as defined by code. I mean, because retail is defined by code. We were just pulling up the definition from the code. So when staff sees retail, we turn to the code, chapter 2 definitions. So we can add in where it says mobile retail, in parentheses, retail as defined by the land development code.
Yes, that would be fine.
I mean, it's already, retail is already a permitted use in the MDA, but we can clarify that afterwards if we like.
So basically all the uses that you will.
Yes.
You want me to restate my
Restate what?
motion.
motion?
I didn't hear you.
Well, I'm confused,
You know
Mr.
me.
Chair.
I did not hear you.
I guess I'm still a little confused.
Yeah, that's
We're
what I'm-
adding something that's already in there?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. You want
The
it.
language, I just would need to add the reference to retail to the MDA.
So you
As
want
defined by land development
As
code.
defined.
As defined by.
What she
by
read
LDC.
out verbally earlier,
Right.
correct.
it concurs to what we are wanting to do.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
That's your motion.
That's
We
my
have a
motion.
second on
Okay.
that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Second.
Second.
We have a second?
Okay.
Then call the roll on the amendment then. So the amendment is to include language in here that refers retail as defined in the land development code.
Correct.
Can I just clarify? Good question.
Oh, what?
Before you go, just, Penny, that doesn't restrict anything we have in the original NDA.
No, it would
No.
be in parentheses next to mobile retail unit.
It's just really clarification. Okay.
Yeah,
Correct.
just for the mobile retail unit. All right, call the roll.
John Junko,
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett,
Yes.
Bo Bofamy,
Yes.
Lance Green,
No.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
No. Motion passes though. So it's amended and now we're back to the original motion. Any discussion on the original motion? It's to approve the case as amended. Seeing none, go ahead and take the roll.
John Junko,
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett,
Yes.
Bo Bofamy,
Yes.
Lance Green,
Yes.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Congratulations. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very
Thanks again, as always.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Vic.
You aren't gonna hang around, huh? I don't blame you.
Mobile beer truck.
All right, moving on. Case number 19-40.
I don't want to call anybody. Why?
You guys ready? Case number 19-40000002. Fifth Amendment to the Westport Storage and Office Building Plan Commercial Development Master Development Agreement. I'll let you read the rest of it.
Penelope Cruz Planning. So this is basically the proposed Fifth Amendment to the Westport Storage Plan Commercial Development. The purpose of the amendment is to expand the list of permitted uses to allow all those uses, except for pain management clinic, that is allowed in the professional office zoning category. The property has a future land use of office residential transition. Professional office zoning district is one of the compatible zoning, conventional compatible zoning districts. So if it wasn't a PCD, professional office uses would be allowed under conventional zoning, and they're just looking to expand that encompassing list into the PCD. So staff is here to answer any questions you might have about that.
It's confusing,
Lance.
it's confusing to me.
So
Yes.
the current PCD limits the type of uses that are allowed on the property, and the applicant is just asking to allow the list of uses that would typically be allowed in the code in the professional office zoning district in the PCD.
So he doesn't have that currently? He
No.
doesn't have a list of uses?
He has a list of uses, but it's limited.
It is.
It is. It doesn't include the whole list.
So it's less than,
Yes.
okay, I understand, okay.
Newton.
This is not, the units that are currently storage, would they be remaining storage, or would the applicant be considering converting those into storefronts, or?
I mean, if they did that, they would have to apply for, right now this is just about use. It's a zoning document looking at uses. So if they were wanting to make any kind of building modifications, they would have to come in and potentially either do a site plan depending on the scope and obviously building permits.
So
So at this point, they're just looking at uses. There's no proposals to make any modifications to the actual site at this point.
This would just expand the uses in
Mhm.
the existing storefront air-conditioned units.
Exactly.
Perfect, okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, one more question?
Sure.
So does he have to pay is there an application fee for this?
There is for this. He has, with his application, requested that staff track their time so that when it goes to city council, he can ask for a fee reduction.
Okay.
Glad we don't
That's
vote on
Andy.
these.
All right, Bo, your turn.
I have no questions.
And Maria?
I'm curious why it doesn't already have the whole list. Was there a reason?
It's just the way the applicants make their application and they propose what they want to have in their MDA, and that's how it's gotten approved over time.
So it started out with a partial list, and then every time he decides he wants to add something, or like right now, there's a lot of empty units in right there, so he's probably trying to widen it so he can rent them out.
So there's some of the amendments were to add property. So we're at 5 now. You know, not each one was about uses. Some of the
Okay.
prior amendments were to add pieces to the MDA.
Oh, gotcha.
But in this case, it's to add additional potential uses for, future options for tenants.
Okay, I'm good.
I have one. Just a little more clarity because it's very vague. Permitted uses. So, can I get a list of potential options?
It's an exhibit to the staff report.
Yeah, I could have.
Right here.
What page is it? Look.
It's the last
You need to read
page.
your packet before
Where
you
am I?
open the
whole
I was
packet,
on-
Johnny.
Where is it?
Right here.
Look, page.
You
I
fell
don't know
asleep
page.
thumbing through those
It's
pages?
a laptop. He's dealing with.
But it does specifically
44
say in the staff
pages long.
report, so it would
It
allow
took me 3
the
times to
uses
read it,
as
3
allowed
times.
in the professional office district except for pain management. We did exclude that one out, just because
I'm
it's
still,
historic.
this is why I hate
Well,
my
yeah,
computer.
it's like-
I'm scrolling like a oh, okay, all right, there we go.
That's why I printed stuff. My notes are even on here.
I don't, I gotta learn how to do that. I make footnotes on these. Okay, so he's got a lot options to do here. Gladly, I don't see tattoo parlors, right? Okay. All right, well, there you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You good?
Yes, I am good.
Cool.
And
Um,
we've seen these in other places too. I mean, I don't understand why. I know other rental places and storage places have these autumn storefronts, and it encourages businesses and money and revenue. So I don't understand why they even had to do this, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, this would basically help that situation.
Well, that's what I was asking. I just think he must have very limited himself
Yeah,
early
right,
on.
yeah.
and-
Early
It was
on.
very limited.
Yeah, so I do have sympathy for them.
You're all good then?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have anything for you.
Okay.
And I don't believe the applicant is here tonight, is he?
Unfortunately, I do not believe he's here.
No, Mike, last time we had this applicant before our committee or commission, I thought we had gotten an agreement from him to extend the cross connection there on the Nova Road property at the Nova Road Depot.
Well, Newton knows that one very well.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna go there, but thank you, sir.
I'm disappointed that he's not here. Plus, I'm disappointed that the last time he was here, I feel like I got hornswoggled. I thought we had an agreement to have him complete that cross connect. Just a statement I'll make on this one, which has nothing to do with this item.
I
But
would have thought it would have. I would have thought the cross connect would have been done when they put the ATM in the parking lot.
Let's come back to that, guys.
Do we have a motion, anybody from the public wish to speak? No?
We have one
Any
public.
further discussion? Back to the committee here. No?
I'll
This
make a
time I'll
motion
entertain, thank you, go ahead.
to approve case number 19-400000002.
Second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Discussion.
Any further discussion?
Is it possible for
No.
us to add a stipulation?
Oh,
Did he make
blackmail.
the connection?
Blackmail.
Oh,
Newton's
for the other
blackmail.
property?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
I did not think so, but
Yeah.
I had to ask.
Different
That
property.
addresses to a whole
I
different
had to
property.
ask, and maybe they will hear us asking and realize that sooner or later they'll be back here.
You know you're on TV.
I do know I'm on TV.
Alright, been motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett?
Yes.
Bo Bofamy?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan?
Reluctantly, yes. Motion passes. Alright. Here comes the hard one. This is, let me read the right one. Last one here, case number 19-25000001, Land Development Code Text Amendment to Chapter 9. And we get, Mr. Berman?
We get the
I don't
beaming.
know.
Bringing out the
What are you
big
doing
guns
up
there.
Yeah, right. Good afternoon, Tim Berman, Community Development. This is, I think, second phase of the code amendments we're doing based off the EAB recommendations. You guys approved the first one, I think, in December. Again, this is the second phase. This is kind of dealing with tree mitigation and also the tree survey requirements, making those more consistent. First of all, the mitigation, what the EAB made was a recommendation to try to make more effort to preserve the existing buffers along the right-of-way and adjacent properties, along with preserving more specimen trees within the site then. So what this code amendment would do would basically require tree mitigation payment for the removal of specific size of tree within buffers, existing buffers, along with specimen trees. So we're not saying that sites would still be able to remove their specimen trees that are allowed by code, and for instance, they might be able to remove 20% of the trees. So say there's 10 on the site, they could remove 2 by code. Currently, they don't pay any mitigation for the 2 they remove. If this would be in place, then they'd be able to remove those, but pay tree mitigation for that then. And the intent from the AB for putting that tree mitigation in the buffer areas was hopefully that basically developers would, instead of removing the trees there to make better sight lines to buildings, they would keep those existing trees, which would help the buffers. We could work with them on trimming the trees, cleaning them up then so that they could get that sight line then, but would try to put more emphasis on keeping existing trees in buffers and also on the property then. So that was the first one. The second is regarding the tree survey requirements. We have 2 completely different tree survey requirements for a site plan and a subdivision. So in this case, we basically condensed them, made them equal, consistent across the board. We also put in there a stipulation that states that if there's a wetland conservation area that you basically are dedicated on your plat or your plans as conservation, you're not going to touch it, it's going to remain as open space and not be part of the development project, that area does not have to be surveyed as part of the tree survey. The reason for that is it's going to be locked in a conservation easement, not touched. Also, too, in terms of getting that tree survey to go out there, you're going to have to cut sight lines through the survey equipment. You're going to have to disrupt that area. At the end of the day, then you're coming back and we're putting a conservation easement on it. So we thought that would be good to encourage more of those areas to be remaining because they don't have to invest the money into getting a tree survey, and also keep those areas preserved then. So those are basically the 2 changes that we've got here on kind of phase 2 of this approach. There will be another one coming up here either next month or the following month, but that should wrap up the EAB recommendations and bring this code amendments forward. So staff is recommending approval of these 2 items in the code.
Cool. Questions for Tim?
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
He's our chair.
No.
You gotta listen to the chair. Curious, because it's personally happening to me. You exceed your tree requirement minimums. You're going for a 20%.
Depends on depends on the amount of trees on the property and the size of it. But just to give an example, in some cases it could be it was easy math too.
Well, if the property has a tree survey and based on the diameter of the trees, they're all defined as historic, and they count the trees and they say you have to leave an example like 10 of these trees up, and you exceed that by like 300%, you don't have to pay any mitigation?
If you're removing trees that are, if the code says you can remove X number of trees,
Right.
basically this code would require the mitigation payment for this X number of trees then. The intent is to try to encourage more trees to remain on a site then.
Oh.
And to basically for developers to, work around those trees. Typically we see, hey, I can get rid of 5 trees then, so go ahead and, get rid of them and move on there. We're hoping this kind of, encourages more careful looking at that to maybe preserve 4 of them. And then, cut down 4 of them, keep 1 of them. That was the intent behind this code.
Okay.
A majority of cities too in commercial developments basically require that mitigation payment too. So we're just kind of being more consistent with generally what's out there too.
All right, thank you.
And that's basically just on a specimen tree too, and that there. Then so there's got to be a certain size. It's not every tree in there.
Right. The historic trees over diameter.
Yeah, the historic tree would be kind of in different realm in terms of that. There are already codes to cover. This is just your specimen tree on there. That's not the
Like
historic.
the oaks on the property we were talking about earlier.
Like a 20-inch oak that would apply as specimen tree.
Okay. All right. I'm with that with Mr. Roberts right now. I was just kind of curious now. I might indirectly vote for something.
Marie.
I'm good.
Bo, your turn, man. Go for it.
Go, Bo, go.
I have nothing.
I was waiting for the question.
Come on,
Bo. Jump on that question. Come on.
No, actually what I was gonna ask you is, in the areas where you're forgiving the survey as part of this amendment, what about environmentals and the drilling and the other things? Are those areas, would that area still be exempt from those tests when you're preparing property?
If there's any specific property test that there that would require them to go in there, that would be separate. Then this is basically just the surveyor company having to go through and identify the trees in the area then, and what this would apply to then.
All right, so the other things would still be required.
Yeah, they were required for other permitting agencies. Those could still require other contractors to go in there. That we can't stop it. This is made for the tree survey because that's what we were getting on a couple of them where they're they were leaving large areas that are wetlands and conservation. And the question was, why do we have to go in there and survey it all if we're going to save it and we're going to do a little bit more clearing then to get that survey then? That's what that was intended for. But if there's let's say for something for a stormwater report or something like that, they need to do some work in there, they would still be able to go in there. We would not prevent them with this code here from that then.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was present for I think all but one of the environmental advisory board meetings where we discussed this and hashed all this out. So it's been beat and shaken and stirred and settled back down again. It did go from wild back to reasonable. You weren't there for all of them, were you? But yeah, some of what we started out with in the EAB was pretty far-reaching. It's pulled back to a reasonable level. I'm very comfortable with this.
Great, Lanes.
So, no matter what you do on a site, you're going to pay. If you have a tree that's going to be on, say, the site of a new home, you're going to pay either way. Even though you allow me to take down 2 trees, you're still going to charge me for them either way.
You may still charge on that basically with basically the code, allowed code then. Like we kind of put an example too, like the in here then, it may be a payment of $3,000 to remove possibly 2 or 3 trees then.
That's a lot when you're talking about building something, or again, we're trying to redesign something. So the minimum that you were going to give me, which let's just say was 2 trees, what you said earlier, now you're getting none, and you're paying no matter what you do, right?
Yeah, you're basically paying to take those 2 trees down. You'd be allowed to take those 2 trees down currently the code written without any payment now.
Okay.
Now you basically have to pay to take those 2 trees down.
Why? I mean, and
well, the AB, the intent is to try to preserve more trees on a site, as basically that being more of an incentive to encourage trees. Because what we see now basically is developers come in here, they know exactly how many trees they have to save, and pretty much when they come in here, they want to clear everything under the sun then, on that site then. And we have to bring them back to what code is, and this is basically more of an incentive to try to basically work ahead of time on redesign those sites to preserve more trees in.
Okay,
what the
and again,
intent
I'm all about it, don't get me wrong, I'm a tree hugger, and I see this vision, obviously on a large site type of thing, I'm concerning myself with the smaller sites that might be a little more challenging, and it might even be a home site.
Well, home sites, when we do a subdivision, we do not allow the specimen trees that meet for code to be located on a residential site. Those have to be in a common area.
Okay.
So instance,
So when
like
they
like the Bella Oak project that was here a few
Yeah.
months ago in that
Right.
subdivision, all the specimen trees that were required to comply with code on that property are in a common area that's owned by the HOA. The individual lot owners you wouldn't be able to sell a home to someone who has a specimen tree on there who may be down the road there. It would be, HOA, and there's separate, requirements in terms of existing trees on a property for, 20 years and something wants to be removed.
Okay.
This is more basically new development coming in.
Okay. Where does the money from the tree bank go?
Goes through the tree mitigation bank, and we're currently also, one of the EAB's recommendation was to look at basically what that's available for, in terms of what it could be spent on, and see if that could be more turned into, instead of a tree mitigation bank, into an environmental mitigation bank, so it could be expanded on doing environmental projects too. Then shoreline reestablishment. Then one of the things that we're looking at too is ways that we can use some of the tree mitigation bank money to assist us in the Dunlop median projects, possibly in terms of irrigation for the trees and stuff like that along there. Then, so we're looking at other options for how to use that money. Then.
Okay, thank you.
I do have another question, because Lance is sparking up more questions that I probably would like to know, especially as a general contractor. So if you have a lot, a residential home, a customer owns one single residential lot, and their intention is just to clear the area sufficient for the driveway and the home, and they have sufficient trees that they don't have to touch because they have a deep backyard. Does the contract, there's going to be a tree mitigation fee for that scenario? You're saying
Are you
subdivisions.
taking trees down?
If
your
there's a tree in
scenario?
the middle of the house, it has to sit in the center of the property to comply with setbacks. So you have to clear where the house is going. So those trees are coming down, and then you got to clear.
I don't think every tree on that lot is going to be a specimen tree.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's so if you got like oak tree is 18 inches above the specimen tree. If you've got a bunch of 16-inch trees there that you're taking down, that doesn't come into play here. Then it's
Right.
a specimen trees.
So you're finding that doesn't matter. If you're taking one specimen tree down, you're going to pay.
Yes.
Okay. And you said based on that, it's defined on the diameter, and the bigger the tree, the more you pay.
Correct.
Is that right?
And these were the recommendations that we got from the EAB that we're bringing forward. Then.
You used to be able to, you were allowed to replace, inch for
Yeah,
inch
add
kind of thing,
seedlings.
and add your own trees on your site when you were done.
It's
and if
still
I
basically-
took down
I mean,
a
that is
20-inch
in-
tree, I could put up 4-inch trees.
And that's indicated in there too. Basically, the replacement tree is still an option there. But what we're finding though too is that with our existing tree requirements in terms of the new site there's just sometimes not enough room to plant all those trees in.
Well, and how is that monitored? That's a nightmare to monitor. That
They
they're
do it on
putting
inspections. You
in
got to
those
submit a
trees.
survey and a tree survey.
And it's
and-
basically it's above and
Yeah.
beyond what you're required by code. So if your site requires
Okay.
50 new trees to be planted, then you can't say, hey, I'm going to take my replacement trees from specimen ones and count them toward that 50. No, it's the 50 plus those additional replacement trees. And sometimes there's not enough physical room on a site to plant those
To
trees
actually do that.
in a way that they're going to grow and be healthy.
When
Oh,
you
you
get
got a
down to
question?
5,000 square foot lot, where are you going to put them?
But basically, it's not going to be single family
have a
home
tree in
lots
the
that impacted. It's basically more the commercial new development lots then.
Okay.
That's typically where I see
Well,
it.
what if a guy owns 3.5 acres and he only wants to clear 1 acre?
That guy.
Better
named
move,
John.
better not put your house where the oak trees at.
Right. Well, I think that's
is
the
definitely-
motivation. Is plan where you're going to put it.
Well,
I mean,
I-
regardless of whether it's single family.
It's
or
very
big.
carefully put in a certain location. That's the only place it's going to be.
Drive right through a tree.
Yeah, pine trees. There's a lot of pine trees.
The motivation is work.
Pine
around
trees
it.
are not.
They're not
I know,
special.
I know.
no,
I got a lot
I
of
mean-
pine trees.
Okay.
I think it's hard to tell what that example is going to be without knowing what
Right.
the trees we're dealing with.
Anything else from the?
No, and again, Tim, I think the intent of this code is on the right track, and I think we're trying to do the right thing. And obviously, the more stringent, the better. Is how I feel, as long as it's about tree preservation. So I think it's written well, and I think You did good.
I think they do a good job. Really nice job. Thank you. Anybody from the public wish to comment? I keep looking at you. You're in.
Savannah.
Come on up. Introduce yourself.
Savannah Weaver, Port Orange. I would just like to say, after petitioning, I have surveyed many voters in our community, and conservation of our land is one of the top concerns I've been hearing. So I am in support of what the Environmental Board is recommending. If we don't start saving our specimen trees, our large trees, our oak trees, they are a symbol of Port Orange, there will be nothing left years from now. When my daughter's grown, when her daughter's grown, that's what we're worried about. These large trees take many years to grow. Deforestation, clear cutting, they're major concerns from our community, so I'm here to advocate for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good. Anybody else? Seeing none, any wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 19-25000001.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the members? No, seeing none, please call the roll.
John Junko,
I guess, yes.
Maria Mills Burnett,
Yes.
Bo Bofamy,
Yes.
Lance Green,
Yes.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. That motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on, other business, commissioner comments. Bo.
The Arby's that's going up behind the McDonald's on Dunlawton, they started the landscaping on that property. They're doing a fantastic job. It really looks good. So
Making up for bad food.
no, I'm just saying it could be a lot worse. And it looks very attractive.
Remember when they had the big hat for the sign? Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that on Dunlawton?
I'm hoping the sign is
That
as
would be
big
your
as Waffle
favorite.
House. I'm hoping the sign is going to be as big as Waffle House and
You know, this isn't funny, guys.
block the sidewalk.
I can't drive by a Waffle House without thinking.
Go ahead, Bo. Please.
That's all I have.
That's it?
Yep.
Thank you. Maria.
I'm good.
What, John.
No, I am good. I think we have eager people that want to go home.
Cool. Newton.
I would like just to take a moment to thank staff
For putting up with us.
for putting up with us and putting up with me. I appreciate it. You guys do a fantastic job in this city. The things that don't come up here are probably 3 times as many as what make it to this meeting, and I know you work hard all the time to help keep the city what it is, and I just want to tell you I really appreciate the effort.
Lance.
Such an enthused bunch.
Tim, come on up. Let me ask you a couple questions. While you knew you weren't getting out of that, easy. So, and again, a couple of my questions have to do with the development activity report.
All right.
The golf home, the golf villas or houses. What do they call them that again? The golf homes at Cypress Head site plan. And I assume that's the little piece between Cypress Head and Water's Edge. And it says the development order has been extended.
Right.
Have
That's
they
it.
submitted anything? Has there been a site plan submitted? And
Yeah, there has been a site plan that has been submitted on that project. It was approved, and that's what they extended through the proper applications. We reviewed it again and issued the extension of the development order. At this time, though, there's, building permits have not been, issued on that then. It just seems like the property owner is just keeping that site plan active then.
so, man, here's a perfect situation where there's a concept, because half of that land's gonna be wet. And I think it's 7 acres, and there's like 3 to 5 acres of it's gotta be wetlands, and only a certain portion of it's even buildable, right? So we're
The
not,
area that's basically toward, that would be along it's basically that triangle
right,
with the road going here then. It's the area that would kind of butt up against Cypress Head, the golf course area, is pretty much that area that's buildable. The rest of it, as goes toward the point of the triangle, is more the wetlands,
right.
stormwater area on that property then.
Okay, so again, that's, we just talked about, we don't need to send a surveyor in there to do anything if that area is not gonna be ever touched, correct?
Yeah, well, in this case, that was a couple years ago, so they sent
Yeah.
the surveyor there and got all the information then. But
Okay.
that would be an example of one that if it came back again then, could
Wouldn't touch it.
comply with that then.
The project at Crystal Lake, and it says that the development owner is pending a payment of their fair share.
Yes,
So we're still doing fair shares,
correct.
okay, and so I assume this particular fair share at that area, so we're doing a study of the traffic, it's within a certain radius of this project, or how is?
Yeah, we did the traffic study, per the requirements at, within that area then, and assessed a, fair share payment for it based on the impacts to, the roadway network within Port Orange here there. I think they're paying toward the Yorktown Boulevard Extension Project, and also this one, instead of, what's kind of unique there, we have a, situation where at Madeline and Clyde Morris, basically if you're headed, right in front of like the McDonald's, there's that turn lane that basically backs up into the through lane because the left turn is so narrow there because there's that landscaping median. So as part of this project, they are going to go back and rework that turn lane there to basically remove that landscape median to extend that left turn lane so there's more stacking room. So hopefully basically when the cars that are going left then are not going to be kind of in the through lane, which should help that intersection function more efficiently then.
Great.
So as part of the Lazul project, when it's being constructed before the first CO is issued, they will do that roadway project for the city of Port Orange then.
Nice.
So it's
See,
kind of a
that's what I wanna
combination.
hear. I wanna hear these projects
But
going
we
on.
did that one. We also did it with the Springs project too. There's kind of a component of they paid some fair share, but there's also actual some roadway improvement projects that they're doing with their project that's kind of tied to the first CO then.
Excellent.
So it's something we're looking at with our new.
Is that the apartment project?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some we're looking at more with our fair share project to see if there's ways to get these smaller road improvement projects to have some capacity improvement project as part of that versus just kind of here paying to this fund and move on then.
Well, seeing some of the money being allocated toward the Yorktown extension, which I think is, again, that's the biggest thing we face right now. That's the biggest road we need to get done. But I think, like you said, doing these intersections ain't great, but getting it towards Yorktown. So, okay, good. Project number L7101, the cell tower. Where is that going?
That is the cell tower that would be proposed to the intersection of Town West Boulevard and Williamson Boulevard. There's basically a kind of like right at that intersection on the east side of the Williamson is a small property, a couple acres that's owned by individual property owner, and the cell tower is proposed in that location.
And this one made it in before the code?
Correct. It made it in before the moratorium and the new code then.
And have we determined that there's a need for it?
We are waiting for that determination to be made. We are working with the applicants to get that information in.
Because it seems awfully close to the other one at the church that is the eyesore.
Whose cell phone tower is it?
I don't know.
There's basically firms that basically construct the cell towers and then
then
will
they
sell
lease
off.
them
It's
all
not
out,
like an
yeah.
AT&T one. It's basically
Oh, okay, gotcha.
on that one then.
Okay.
It basically it would comply with basically majority of the separation requirements of our new code.
Yeah.
It would meet the separation requirements from that tower up on
Oh,
Madeline.
it would. Okay.
Madeline then.
Is it on the east side or Williamson?
Doesn't seem
or
very
west side?
far. I mean,
West
you're
side.
saying, Town West.
Town
Okay, I
West.
was
Town,
wrong.
yeah,
You're
it's
thinking
on
of
between
Town Park.
basically the property between Williamson and I-95.
Okay.
It's in.
I was thinking Town Park. I'm sorry.
That's up
I
at
got
the
you.
south end of Thompson Pump Site.
Yes.
Okay, so then one more thing. So I happen to notice that the lighting project down Dunlawton is going on. I see all the wiring has been on and on and on, which leads me to the next subject. What are we doing about fixing the lights that are on Williamson and all the pink lights that got wires dangling out of them? Still to this date, are we doing anything about it?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's all I have. Wow, that caught me off guard.
Run away.
Yeah, that's what I need to know. I mean, just as long as we're doing something about it.
You're
That's
good.
all I
Run,
have.
Tim.
Thank
Run.
you very much. I also want to thank staff because they're always prompt in answering questions. They give you the right answers, let you make a good decision. So I appreciate that very much. And we never get to thank our clerk, Shelby. Thank you very much, and our counselor here. She never gets thanked. Thanks for correcting us. Anything else? Seeing none,
Make a motion to adjourn.
we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.